For a broader perspective, I'm joined now by Elaine Kamarck, a veteran of 6 Democratic presidential campaigns and author of Primary Politics, an in-depth guide to the presidential nominating process. For the past 15 years, she's been a lecturer in public policy at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. Welcome, Elaine.
Thanks. It's nice to be here.
When we talk about the gender gap in women's issues, the tendency is to focus on issues like abortion. Fundamentally, is that why women tend to vote Democratic more than Republican?
I think it's fundamentally an economic issue. Women have always been more economically insecure than men. If you're a mother with 3 children and your 3 little kids and your husband walks out, you have a problem. And therefore, women have always had a greater appreciation for the social safety net, for the role of government in helping people who are in trouble. So I think it's fundamentally economic, but I do think that abortion is, and rights issues are an important part of the equation.
Let me just flip this for a minute. Why do men tend to be more Republican?
I think men tend to be more Republican because of they feel that they are the commanders of their fate. And it's men who inhabit the rugged individualism that is so American. And so men tend to think, I can do this all by myself. I don't need any help, etc. And I'm in charge of my life, my family, etc. Women are more vulnerable, mostly because they've got children with them. You have 3 little kids hanging on your skirts, and you can't run as fast. And I think women have always had a different outlook on that.
So that when someone says, I'm from the government and I'm here to help, for a lot of women, that's not the punchline to a joke.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Now, ever since 1980, when the Republican Party took a very tough, hard stand on abortion, I've heard people, like the woman we heard in this piece, saying, you know, I'm a Republican, but I'm pro-choice, and that's not what I want to hear. But the fact is there have been 5 Republican candidates for president who've been elected with that no exceptions rule right there in their platform, which I'm going to talk about later. Explain that.
Well, I think that people don't really believe that the Republicans are going to do anything about this. And in fact, those 5 Republican presidents didn't spend any time or any political capital on trying to restrict abortion rights. In fact, I think the fact that there's been so much inaction from people who say that they're going to do something about abortion has probably led the pro-life segment of the Republican Party to kind of go off the deep end on a couple of issues, like the vaginal probes for people who want to have an abortion. I mean, that backfired on them. Mm-hmm. And I think other things that we heard in this campaign from Rick Santorum, for instance, they ended up backfiring on the Republicans. But I suspect it's probably frustration on the part of the real zealots that, in fact, the candidates who say that they're for them never, in fact, deliver. On
the Democratic side, it seemed to me that at the convention, the party really went all in on this issue. There was no modulation about this.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the nights of the convention seemed to be devoted to this issue. That didn't happen by accident. So what does that tell us about what the Democrats think about this issue?
Well, I think the Democrats think that the Republicans have gone out on a deep end and are going to wake up this sleeping giant of an issue. Prior to these primaries, this was going to be an election not about abortion or any of the social issues. It was going to be an election purely about the economy. And then you had this kind of crazy Republican primary where you had very far out statements on the part of a lot of people trying to run for president, not to mention people like Todd Akin, who's the Republican Senate candidate in Missouri, who thinks that women, when they're raped, can't get pregnant. A little loony, okay? And that you had a party kind of veering way off to the right. And it woke up that issue, surprisingly.
Is there a danger on the Democratic side, though, that by going all in on a kind of, we're for abortion rights under any and all circumstances, is there a danger for the Democrats? As you've been somebody who in the past has warned the Democratic base, watch it on some issues.
Of course. In fact, this year, the Obama administration got in trouble over the issue of whether or not his health care plan would require Catholic institutions to cover contraception. And so, every time either party moves from that sort of mushy middle where most of Americans are, they do, in fact, get themselves into trouble. So Democrats, I think, need to go back to Bill Clinton's formulation about abortion: safe, legal, and rare. Because what the rare does is it says to the people who are uncomfortable with this, we understand. This is not a great thing that anybody goes through. And so we understand your ambivalence on the issue.
When you look ahead to November, and I hate predictions probably as much as you do you think at the end of the day, cliche alert, that abortion is going to be a significant factor in this election?
You know, if you had asked me that a couple of months ago, I would have said absolutely no way. On the other hand, given what the Republican Party has done, and given Mitt Romney's own, sometimes he's for it, sometimes he's against it, stances, I think it could end up playing into a Democratic victory just because there's going to be a lot of suburban moms, kind of like we saw in the piece that just preceded this. There's going to be a lot of suburban moms who are going to say, you know, maybe he's okay, but I don't know where he is. And that party, they've just gone off the deep end for me.
Okay. Elaine Kamarck, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Jeff.